use it for lecture.
Check, 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 and I gotta get just a little more volume out of it. Check, check. So we probably want it somewhere down about there.
So I typically have it on my tie. How's this? How does that sound thick enough? Like, what do you think? Check, check. Is that loud enough? How's my bass? Oh well, this is great. This is not too bad for a clip-on. Do you think that works?
Just don't come too close this way when it's under.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm muting my.
I'll use this one over that, but what I really like is the one he has. It's just that this kind of mic always stays right with you, which is always the issue. But this one will be okay if it's about right there. Okay.
It just leaves the rubber kind of lets it lean forward, so unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm gonna replace the mounts. And then obviously
I need to be able to read my notes.
and everybody's gonna adjust the drone that it is for height.
Yeah.
It would be a tragedy. It's been a long year. Work stuff and a little me stuff too. And some me stuff too. Work things in particular. Administrative restructuring of staff titles and new things like that.
I have no idea what my new title is. It's not a very impressive title. It's like
Teaching faculty.
teaching faculty of one. And it's like, well, how that doesn't describe so much.
No,
Back off.
don't worry.
Back off. I may look like I can catch you, but I can't.
Well, we have a line of succession here. You're a past president, you're also vice president. So if something happens,
Everybody not to go over the edge. We all carry rings over there.
Silvio, well, bummer.
It's really embarrassing. That's also the platform.
well, we just do what happens.
It's all about the introduction. I know. Students in my bid seminar twice in a row. My professor from my desk I did it twice, and so, but I never saw that as a never showed up in my evaluations. And I think students like time interruptions, like what's the absolute formality of that wondering. Yes.
Well, I think in this day and age, it's really modeling imperfection, how
Yeah.
You kind of, oh, well, okay, laugh and move on, or
Yeah.
cry and move on, but it's not, I mean, a number of kids in my office who
Maybe for this group of students, modeling interaction
is
is relevant for many others.
This is how you accommodate it.
Yeah.
Pardon? I do. Good to go. Thank you. And then, is this one live?
This one is live. I'm just gonna kind of point it this way to try and get a little bit of that going over there. This one shouldn't be picking you guys up though.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the 102nd annual induction of members into the University of Wisconsin-Madison chapter of Phi Kappa Phi. My name is Will Schuth. I am the president of the University of Wisconsin-Madison chapter, and I work in the Office of Academic Information Management in the College of Letters and Science. I'm delighted that we are sharing this time to recognize our outstanding students at the University of Wisconsin. It's great to be able to celebrate in person again. We are proud of these students and their academic labor, and we recognize the community that has supported these students in their path to and through the university. Phi Kappa Phi is the oldest of all disciplinary honor societies open to undergraduates and graduate students, and our chapter is one of 325 in the country. The beautiful music we heard as we entered this room was played by Hannah Nagoni, Madison von Bargen, Lucas Glander, Amanda Stazensky, and Yasmin Bolanos. We do not always have the privilege of having a woodwind quintet play at our induction ceremony or having an inductee playing the oboe. We have invited them to have them play for us at this time. They'll play two short movements from Charles Lefebvre's Suite for Woodwind Quintet, Opus 57. Enjoy the next few minutes of wonderful music. Thank you for that lovely music. It was a real treat. Today, we will also be recognizing and awarding Phi Kappa Phi membership to faculty who have had special influence on our members. Finally, and most importantly, we will recognize each of our newly selected student members. These students' achievement merits our celebration. We anticipate that these students will continue to bolster the reputation of the University of Wisconsin as they move on to their next institutions and pursuits. Although it is primarily our student members who are being honored today, there are other folks who should be recognized for their important roles they play in these students' achievements. First, the family members and friends of the inductees. Some are here today, some are watching from home. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the achievements of your students. I hope that one of the enduring lessons we carry out of the pandemic and out of this experience of the last several years is this: we rely on our family and our friends, our colleagues and our communities to make our lives whole. Thank you for being here. Also with us today are Associate Dean Cal Bergman from the College of Letters and Science, Katie Blyer, the Assistant Dean for Academic Affairs from the School of Nursing, Assistant Dean Kurt Lauderdale from the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for your continued support of Phi Kappa Phi and its mission to let the love of learning rule humanity. I'd like to now introduce the members of our Phi Kappa Phi Executive Board. I'll ask each member to stand as their name is read and remain standing until all have been introduced, after which we can give them a round of applause to celebrate their service to our chapter. Michael Childers is professor and director of the School of Workers, Department of Labor Education. This is his fourth year on the board. Ralph Grunewald is assistant professor in the English department and the Center for Law, Society, and Justice. Ralph has served on the board for 6 years. Elizabeth Kelly is faculty associate in the Department of Economics and a past president of the board. I'm particularly grateful for Elizabeth's continued service on the board. We're honored that Elizabeth has agreed to be our keynote speaker today. You'll hear more about Elizabeth shortly. Lauren Silver served on the board as a student vice president and is now a child care specialist at the Respite Center in Madison, offering crises childcare. At the Respite Center, she has conducted the first program evaluation study funded with a Phi Kappa Phi Love of Learning grant. Julie Stubbs is the director of the UW-Madison Undergraduate Academic Awards Office. There's Julie in the back. And our student vice president. Megan Baumunk is a PhD student in the Rehabilitation Counseling Education Program. Deborah Bellanzani is a PhD candidate in the Department of French and Italian and a future faculty partner in the Teaching Academy. Ann Taylor Minison is graduating this spring with a master's in educational leadership and policy analysis. And Debbie Cole is the assistant director of the Undergraduate Academic Awards Office and our chapter's executive secretary. And this ceremony doesn't happen today without Debbie's efforts. So a special thank you to Debbie. And this is the executive board. And now I'd like to present Michael Childers, who will present our National Fellowship nominee. Michael.
Thank you, Will, and welcome everyone. It's a distinct pleasure to welcome you here to Des Ope, the ancestral home of the Ho-Chunk Nation that we know of as Madison, Wisconsin, to all those joining us online. So glad that you can be here. And let me be the first to welcome or to wish you a happy International Worker Day. And I can't think of a better day to celebrate the dedication and hard work of all our inductees. The Phi Kappa Phi Fellowship is awarded at a national level, and winners of this award receive scholarship support ranging from $8,500 to $35,000 for their graduate study. Each chapter is invited to nominate one person per year in the national competition, and in past years, several of our chapter's nominees have been successful. Nicole Steffen is our National Fellowship nominee this year. Nicole graduated from UW-Madison in 2019 with a Bachelor's of Science in Molecular Biology, minoring in Global Health. She accomplished this with a perfect 4.0 GPA. And for the last 2 years, Nicole has been working as a clinical research coordinator at Massachusetts General Hospital. This fall, she plans to start a Master's of Public Health at Emory University, and she's joining us online today. Please join us in celebrating Nicole's achievement and wishing her the best of luck as she goes through this national competition. How about a round of applause and good spirits? Thanks. Now back to you, Will.
Good luck to Nicole. I'd now like to introduce our keynote speaker, Elizabeth Sawyer Kelly. Elizabeth is a faculty associate in the Department of Economics, where she has taught over 50,000 students in her career. Her major responsibilities center on the first-year experience. She teaches introductory microeconomics, introductory macroeconomics, the honors section of introductory economics, as well as several upper-level courses. After 34 years at the university, she is retiring this spring. In just a few short weeks, Elizabeth joined UW-Madison Phi Kappa Phi board in 2009, served as president of the board from 2011 to 2014, and as you see, has continued to serve as a board member since then. We value Elizabeth's service to the board, and although she's retiring, we hope that we can convince her to stay on the board at least a little longer. In her spare time, Elizabeth paints watercolors that have been exhibited throughout Wisconsin, serves as president of the Madison Watercolor Society, and is the secretary of the Association of Wisconsin Artists. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Will. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be with you this afternoon to celebrate our scholars and their achievements and to express my appreciation to the family and friends that have supported these scholars. 34 years ago, I became a Badger. At that time, I really did not have any idea what that meant and how it would impact my life. Today, I can say with certainty that my decision to be a Badger and to be part of the UW-Madison and the Wisconsin idea were transformative decisions in my life. Today, we celebrate all of you Badgers, as well as our Badger family, a family composed of our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, our friends, all those people who have contributed to helping you become the people you are. I hope that you will always hold the UW-Madison in your heart and that your time here has shaped you, prepared you, changed you in ways that will serve you and the world well. I have been asked to give a brief speech, and the operative word here is brief. I fear that my enthusiasm for my field can get a bit out of hand, and I will try to be mindful of that this afternoon. Before we get underway, I want to reassure you that we will not be analyzing graphs or doing numeric examples. This news will reduce the overall level of anxiety in the room, while surely disappointing, at least hopefully, a few of you. The title of my speech today is, What do chocolate cake, retirement saving, and organ donation have in common? Or how an economist sees the world. What do chocolate cake, retirement saving, and organ donation have in common? Let's start by examining a simple definition of economics. Economics is the study of choice under conditions of scarcity. This definition may surprise many of you. You may have thought that my definition would certainly include mention of supply and demand, or perhaps a mention of the power of markets, or a mention of business, or even a mention of government's role in the economy. My definition does not include any of those common ideas that we have about what economics is. Let's hear that definition one more time. Economics is the study of choice under conditions of scarcity. What I like about this definition is that it immediately makes present to each of us that we are engaging in the business of economics. Each of us is constrained. Our scarcity typically takes the form of too little income or too little time or perhaps too little income and too little time, but we are all constrained. And each of us makes choices, literally hundreds of choices every day. Today, you chose to come here. You chose the foods and drinks you have eaten. You chose the route you traveled. You chose your clothes. So many choices. Every day, we all make an incredible number of choices. Historically, economists viewed this choosing process as a rational process where the individual calmly considered both the benefit and the cost of doing something, and then they carefully selected those activities where the benefit outweighed the cost. Today, there is growing awareness and acceptance that humans often prove to be anything but rational. And if this is the case, the question then becomes one of asking if there are ways to improve the choices that humans make. As an aside, there's also the subject of whether there are ways to profit from our knowledge of how humans are, to coin a term used by Dan Ariely, predictably irrational. So let's start with the chocolate cake, since that gives us an easy way to think about the traditional perspective of economists with the emerging perspective offered by behavioral economists. Consider an individual who wants to watch their weight. For example, consider me. I have bad knees, and I know that keeping my weight down makes life better for me because it means that my knees are happier. And I work to achieve this goal. I get up each morning and carefully weigh myself, and I think about my goals for the day. I eat a good breakfast. I pack a healthy lunch. These are all good decisions. Then I go to work, and I see an email telling me that in the break room, a colleague has brought in a chocolate cake. At 9:30 in the morning, I hear the cake calling to me, but I can ignore the call. At 11:30, that cake is still calling to me, and I am holding firm. But if I am still at the office at 3:30 or 4, and that cake is still calling, I can promise you that my reserves will give way, and I will go down to see that cake. Now, this is my example, and my goal is to protect my knees. I've also taught economics for 44 years, 34 here and 10 elsewhere. I am steeped in the rational approach in a way that most people aren't. So what does the rational economist do at 4 p.m.? I go look at that cake, and I hope that it looks a bit disheveled, since if it looks a bit mucked up, I will be able to feel enough disgust to walk away from it. I hope that that cake immediately sends off a vibe of cake mix, and I can bring forth a bit of snobbery to keep from eating that cake. But, and all too often this happens, the cake looks delicious and I find myself taking a slice. But wait, I am an economist. So when I take the slice, I pause and admire the slice for a bit. I don't rush. I then take a small bit of cake onto my fork, and I think about the benefit I will get from that bite. I think about the flavor. I think about the texture. I think about the sweetness. I think about the chocolate. Can you taste this cake yet? You know, then before I eat the cake, before I eat that bite, I think about the cost. I think about the extra calories, the additional steps I will need to walk those calories off. I think about how those calories are impacting my goal of protecting my knees. No surprise that this approach typically results in my eating just one bite of the cake. The first bite is always the best, and any additional bite will carry less benefit and more cost. I am a rational economist, but I am not typical. We all know too well how easy it is to eat too many calories, how easy it is to choose to do something that is not really in our best interest. Behavioral economists working with psychologists investigate these tendencies to strive to understand why humans do not behave rationally. And this is what we know. When I eat the cake at 4 p.m., I am tired from a day of making many decisions. I have decision fatigue, and that will weaken my ability to make sound choices. When I eat the cake at 4 p.m., I reason that I can always start my, quote, good knee diet, end quote, tomorrow. But guess what? Tomorrow never gets here. Behavioral economists refer to this as the status quo and the inertia effects. We tend to keep doing whatever we have done in the past. It is hard for us to marshal the energy to change our behavior and our choices. So I eat the cake. Now, if you understand this example, you may have new insight about why some people struggle with weight. It takes enormous rationality and self-discipline to continually make the right choices in a world that surrounds us with temptation. This example also provides us with insight as to why individuals don't save enough for their retirement. Let me expand on this to help you see the connection. Consider the newly employed individual who finds themselves working for an employer who provides a generous retirement plan. Now, if I were in a classroom doing this particular presentation today, I would pause and say, this is my kind of good citizen educational moment. I'm hoping at least one or two of you that are coming up today to be recognized are actually going to go start working, because going out and finding out about the world and working is good, and your parents are going to want you to pay attention to what I'm going to be talking about now. This is really important stuff. If you're going to grad school and you're delaying this is still important stuff. You want to get it right because you're delaying you're getting into the labor force. So this is important. This is a public service announcement that I've got here. So consider that newly employed individual who finds himself working for an employer who provides a generous retirement plan. All the individual needs to do to enjoy this retirement plan is visit the Human Resources Department, fill out some paperwork, select the investment plan they want, and then they are good to go. Seems simple, and yet research shows that many people never manage to jump this particular set of hurdles. And if we look at the hurdles, we can start to see the echoes of our chocolate cake story. First, there is a status quo. You have work to do. You are learning a new job and you are eager to please your boss. And now you are expected to find time to go to human resources, fill out paperwork, and select a retirement investment plan. You simply can't fit that into your day. So you don't get there. And you think, okay, I can do this tomorrow. This thought is your valiant attempt to override the inertia that holds you firmly in its grasp. I can do this tomorrow, but like our healthy me diet example, tomorrow simply never comes. The employee does not get to the Human Resources Department, the forms do not get filled out, and the net result is that we have one more individual who has failed to save enough for their retirement. How bad is this problem? It is pretty bad. Melissa Knoll, in a paper on this topic, writes, quote, in 2001, 82% of respondents to a Consumer Federation of America and Bank of America survey reported that they would like to save money and build personal wealth. Yet 60% felt that the statement, quote, I don't think I'm saving enough for the future, described them well or very well. Americans appear to want to make sound financial decisions. They want to spend less and save more. However, Americans' actual savings represent less than 5% of their disposable income. Furthermore, about 75% of 1996 health and retirement survey respondents felt that they had not saved enough for retirement and would save more if they could start over again, end quote. Note, I'm referring to some dated data here for a reason. The last 15 years have been anything but normal in terms of economics. 2007, the economy experienced the Great Recession, the worst recession the country has had since 1929, and the Great Depression. The economy had not fully recovered when COVID-19 global pandemic started in late 2019. Although the data quoted here is dated, current data doesn't still supports the author's point that people want to save more and that they recognize that they are not likely not saving enough for their retirement. Getting your decisions right about how much to save for retirement and what retirement investment plan to invest in is not easy work. Research in this area has led to a number of suggestions that could, if implemented, improve people's decisions in this area. These suggestions are really about mechanism design. The idea that how we set up systems matters a lot, and that how we set up systems can really impact final outcomes. What are two suggestions in the field of retirement saving? The first suggestion is to legislatively implement automatic enrollment in the retirement plan that your employer offers. The employee does not have to stay in the plan, but to opt out, they need to visit the Human Resources Office and fill out some paperwork. Now we have arranged the incentives so that the individual's tendency to keep doing the same thing, what we call the status quo effect, and the individual's tendency to not address the issue, what we call the inertia effect, are now working to help the individual reach the goal of saving for the retirement. A second suggestion is to implement automatic step-ups in the amount you save for retirement. We can improve on the first idea of automatic enrollment in the retirement program by having the individual automatically enrolled in a program that increases the percentage of their income that is put into retirement accounts over time. Effectively, this suggestion raises the percentage of saving from a relatively low level to a higher level as the individual's income rises. Over time, the individual will eventually reach a level of retirement saving that is sufficient to provide for them in retirement. Again, the individual is free to opt out of this plan, but it will entail, you guessed it, a trip to Human Resources and the filling out of some forms. The gist here is that we now know that humans have trouble making good decisions anytime there is a long time period involved. Things like maintaining a healthy weight over an entire lifetime or saving enough for the future retirement that is happening 30 or 40 years from now. We can design systems that increase the probability of a good outcome for the individual once we identify this problem. As an example of the impact of behavioral economics in this area, the House of Representatives recently passed a bill with the acronym SECURE 2.0, which stands for Securing a Strong Retirement Act, which includes a provision that would make auto enrollment a key feature of newly created private sector retirement plans. In this last example, the discussion included mention of mechanism design as well as the terms opt-in and opt-out. Before we turn our attention to organ donation, let's review that mechanism design is the idea of thoughtfully designing systems to enhance the probability of getting a desired outcome. Hence, a retirement system where you are automatically enrolled is likely to be more successful than a retirement system where you're not automatically enrolled if your goal is to have individuals save enough for retirement. In effect, the retirement system with automatic enrollment is an opt-out system. One must exert effort to get out of the offered retirement system. The retirement system where you must enroll to get into the retirement plan is an opt-in system. One must exert effort to get enrolled in the available retirement system. This opt-in and opt-out issue arises in many areas, including organ donation. Most of us have had the experience of getting our driver's license and being asked if we want to be an organ donor. This is an opt-in design. One must physically check the box to become an organ donor. The decision to be an organ donor or not is a lot like the decision to eat the chocolate cake or not, or the decision to save for retirement or not. And the behavioral economists have collected data that illustrates how important it is that we get the mechanism design right for this problem as well. In 2009, Richard Thaler wrote that, quote, in Germany, which uses an opt-in system, only 12% give their consent to be organ donors. In Austria, which uses opt-out, nearly 99% do. End quote. Germany and Austria share a common geographic border. I suspect that most of us have better familiarity with the map of Europe these days than maybe used to be true at these events, but Germany and Austria share a common geographic border, a common cultural heritage, and a common level of economic prosperity. And yet their rates of organ donation are vastly different. And this difference may ultimately reflect the mechanism design of the system. Thaler goes on to explain that we could implement even a different mechanism design that lies somewhere between opt-in and opt-out. This design is what he calls mandated choice, where the individual must simply state their preference. I prefer to be an organ donor, or I prefer to not be an organ donor. In Illinois, where this choice architecture is in place, organ donation rates are now at 60%, at a 60% sign-up rate, in contrast to a US national organ donation rate of 38%. Simply by making it easy to be an organ donor, we can overcome the inertia that keeps many people from acting on their intentions. Chocolate cake, retirement saving, organ donation. Is it any wonder that the field of economics captured my attention, my heart, and my mind so many years ago when I went to college? As we celebrate today, my hope is that for each of our scholars, they have found fields of study that help them understand the world, that delight their minds and hearts, and that help them see ways to help this world. This afternoon, I plan to set aside my rational mind and enjoy the cookies and punch. Thank you for your time and attention. Go Badgers on Wisconsin.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. Well, if you'll permit me an anecdote, yesterday I have a 6-year-old. My 6-year-old asked me, she's learning piano. I'm walking her through that, and I don't play piano, so we're both learning together. But she asked me, Apu, is there something that you're bad at? And I stopped for a second because I wasn't ready to answer that question. I know of plenty of things. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm not very good with plants. I have a brown thumb. I'm great at digging holes. And I said, well, I'm also not good at carpentry. And she asked what that was, and we talked about that. What I could have told her is that I'm not very good at economics. The lowest grade I received in my college career was in economics and macroeconomics. And I passed the course, so I'll leave it to your imagination about whatever grade that I got, but it was the lowest. I had this in mind. I used to work with students that were studying actuarial science, and to become an actuary, they have to take a variety of professional exams on different topics. One of them includes work in economics. And I was talking with a student who's very gifted, who is preparing to take one of these examinations. And he said, you know, I would have been really worried about this a few years ago because I'm not very strong in economics. And this is a student who's very, very gifted with math. And I said, oh, and I said, well, how are you feeling about this exam? He said, you know what? I'm feeling really good about it. Because when I came here, I took my economics courses here. And he said, I know my economics because I took it with Elizabeth Kelly. I should have taken economics with Elizabeth Kelly. All right. So we're going to move on to the honorary members. Today, Megan Baumunk will be presenting 2 honorary memberships. Dr. Malachi Bishop is a professor in the Department of Rehabilitation Psychology and Special Education, and Kevin Schutz is a vocational rehabilitation counselor in Madison, Wisconsin. Megan.
Dr. Malachi Bishop, if you could join me. I met Dr. Bishop when he conducted my interview for the clinical rehabilitation counselor master's program in the March of 2019, and he has been stuck with me since. He was my advisor through my master's, and I'm lucky enough to still be his advisee in the rehabilitation counselor education PhD student. Dr. Bishop has given me countless priceless pieces of advice since the day we met, but 2 pieces always float to the top of my mind. First, every day take time to read something, write something, and just stop, be still, and think. Second, though I may be tossed by waves, I will not sink. I owe so much of where I stand today to Dr. Bishop's kind and encouraging words, expertise, and endless patience for my endless questions. So for always supporting me, thank you, Dr. Bishop. And Mr. Kevin Schutz. I'm a crier, I apologize. I met Kevin Schutz during my master's program when he came in as a guest lecturer into many classes, and I had the pleasure of completing my practicum experience with Kevin. During that time, I had started contemplating applying for the PhD program, And I went to Kevin to see what he thought, because if you've ever asked Kevin for advice, you know that he will not mince his words. Not only was he encouraging of me as a student, he was encouraging me as a professional, but he also made me actually believe that I could do it. Kevin's supervision was a highlight of my master's program and strongly influenced how I view and approach supervision. If it weren't for Kevin's motivation and his bold belief in me, I would have not had been brave enough to apply for the PhD program. For helping me believe in myself. Thank you, Kevin.
Before we come to the most important part of our program, the induction of the student members into our society, we should briefly explain the significance of membership in Phi Kappa Phi. I'm pleased to turn over the microphone to Deborah Bellanzani and to Lauren Silver, who will tell you more about the organization and the ideals that it represents. Deborah.
Membership in Phi Kappa Phi is an honor bestowed in recognition of outstanding academic achievement, and it is an honor bestowed in the expectation of future contributions to the community. The founding philosophy and expectation was that members will continue their commitment to excellence while applying their pursuits in a manner that will benefit the community at large. Another focus is on the unique potential possessed by scholars for contribution to the good of humanity. It reminds scholars that scholarship is not an ivory tower that allows us to distance ourselves from society, and that heroes, almost by definition, are involved and concerned individuals who commit themselves to using their abilities to aid humankind. Such is the responsibility shared by members of Phi Kappa Phi. And Taylor Minson will now continue with the history of Phi Kappa Phi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. Phi Kappa Phi was founded in 1897 at the University of Maine by a group of students who felt a need for an honor society that would recognize excellence across all academic disciplines. Today, it has over 325 chapters. The motto of the society, which you may have seen on our posters and brochures, is Philosophia Krateto Photon, which translates as "Let the love of learning guide humanity." The first letters of this motto give us the name of the society, Phi Kappa Phi. There are several benefits to being a member of Phi Kappa Phi. Among them are the chapter and national awards available for members, and you can see a list of those awards in the program. For all of you planning to start graduate or professional school in the future, we strongly encourage you to consider applying for the Phi Kappa Phi Fellowship or Dissertation Fellowship. As a UW-Madison student, we invite you to apply for the University of Wisconsin-Madison's chapter Zillman Summer Research Awards. Also, as a member, you will receive a one-year subscription to the Phi Kappa Phi Forum, a certificate of membership, and a pin bearing the emblem of the organization. Today, as you are inducted, you will receive the certificate and pin, along with an honor cord to wear at your graduation. If you are staying in Madison after this year, we invite you to talk to one of us about serving on next year's executive board. And you can sign up to receive information about this opportunity at the table by the door. So I did that when I was inducted in 2019. I signed up for the executive board. I was curious just to get more involved. And so I encourage anyone who's interested to do the same. The time commitment is a little bit of what you make of it. We do have meetings that are sometimes just about quarterly. I'd say about once or twice a year. So it's not a huge time commitment as far as meetings go. And what I mean by what you make of it is that people who are able to contribute more and work on things outside of meetings have that ability to do so. Another benefit of being on the board is that you're able to review all the applications for the Summer Zillman Awards, for the fellowships, and you can kind of get an idea of and familiarize yourself with that type of academic writing style. Another part of being on the board that's special is the opportunity to network with professionals from a variety of fields. I mean, we just heard a very entertaining portrayal of economics, and I probably wouldn't have had an economics discussion otherwise. And so it's interesting because it's like you get to meet people of all different fields and collaborate and share and network with each other. So I highly encourage you to sign up for executive board. Thank you.
Now at last, the induction of our new student members. Will all of the inductees, the new inductees, please stand? It is my pleasure to present these candidates to the executive board for induction into the Honor Society of Phi Kappa Phi. These students were selected from the top 7.5% of their class if they're juniors, the top 10% of their class if they are seniors and graduate students. To our inductees, you have demonstrated that your love of learning is an important motivating force in your life. And we hope that you will continue to search for knowledge and truth, not only for yourself, but for the benefit of the communities in which you live. In recognition of the qualities that led to your selection by this society and by your participation in this induction, it is my privilege to declare each of you a member in good standing of the Honor Society of Phi Kappa Phi. We can applaud. It's fine. And then if you wouldn't mind, would the newly inducted students please line up single file in the middle aisle. All right, so as you approach, please hand the card with your name, your major, and your hometown to Professor Ralph Grunewald. He will read your name, he will congratulate each of you, and then you'll proceed to the tables to receive your certificates and your honors cord. Audience members, feel free to applaud, please.
Right, thank you. So first we have Aman Kulkarni. Okay. Thank you. All right, and next up we have Caitlin McQuiston Kyle, right? Yes, right. Thank you. And this is Isabel Schmitz. Is it Schmidt? Schmitz? Schmidt. Schmidt. Alexander Cottrell. Here you go. And we have Kayleen Leverance. Thank you. Welcome. Logan Mariam. Niklas Schulz. And Sarah Zimmerman. And this is Keegan Blazer. I hand this right back to you. And wonderful. Jenner McLeod. Griffin Tong. Caitlin, oh, I saw that on the list. Caitlin Weigert, right? Emily Gums. Clarence Harley. Okay. Ashley Filak. And this is Valerie van Bagen. And Bubakar JB Touré. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. And this is Margaret Murphy. And Jack Styler. And Dani Suresh Babu. Right? Thank you. One more. You're late. No, sorry. Oh, right. I'm sorry. This was so beautiful. All right. So, Hannah Nugani. Yeah. Thank you. Welcome. All right. Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, These are some of the very best juniors, seniors, and graduate students in our university. Please acknowledge their achievements of these new Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society members with a loud round of applause.
All right. Before we close today, the faculty and staff members of the executive board would like to offer our special thanks to the student board members who've worked with us this year. They've all contributed a great deal to the society this past year, and we hope you will join us in expressing appreciation to them. In closing, we ask you to remember the larger responsibility that has been placed on your shoulders by the talents you've been given and by the family members, the teachers, and all the other people in your lives who have helped you become the excellent students we honor today. Whatever profession or vocation follows graduation, we urge you to maintain your commitment to excellence in education, doing what you can to help future generations of students reach their full potential. And we ask you to recognize with us the need for learned people to use their talents wisely and generously to contribute to the betterment of society and to our common humanity. On behalf of the society, I want to thank each of you for celebrating this happy occasion with us today. Thank you all for being with us.
We have delicious cake. I don't know if you're going to want any after Elizabeth's talk, but if you do and it's calling your name, there's no calories in this cake. No, not today on May Day. And there's cookies and refreshments. So please stay if you'd like a little bit and enjoy the refreshments. Thank you again for coming.